that CNBC article that showed research that people who have a personal finance education have $100,000 more wealth in their life because they avoid things like buy now, pay later. All right. And I hope, of course, this is the whole reason that I wrote my book, Taxes for Humans, because I want this for you, right? I think we as creative people, as small, passionate businesses, we often let the money part be secondary. And, money is not your vision. It's not your mission, but it is your fuel. And it is really your ability to take a rest. So it's really important. It's kind of like putting the oxygen mask on yourself. So I hope you know that I wrote this book really to be as powerful to help you as it possibly can. Will my book save you $100,000 in your lifetime? It might. I certainly am trying. Welcome to the Sunlight Tax Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, author of Taxes for Humans, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or wellness-oriented entrepreneur who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hello, it's so good to be with you today. How are you doing? I was reading the New York Times this weekend. I've been avoiding it a little bit, to be totally honest with you, but I do get the Sunday paper, and usually I go straight for the style section and read this Philip Galanis column, which is my favorite part of the paper. But the New York Times Magazine had a fantastic cover story this weekend, and it's on personal finance matters. And of course, that's always interesting to me. So I wanted to just share some thoughts with you about this phenomenon and encourage you to read this absolutely fantastic article, which I will link to in the show notes. So the article, the cover story, is by Amy X. Wang, and it is called "They Got to Live a Life of Luxury, Then Came the Fine Print." And the subtitle of the article is "Buy Now, Pay Later Has Built a Delirious New Culture of Consumption and Trapped Users in a Vortex of Debt." So I was reading this article. It's absolutely shocking. I am aware of these buy now, pay later sites, Klarna, Afterpay. I think there's a whole bunch of them. But I didn't realize sort of the mechanics of how they work and the way that they make money and how absolutely unregulated they are. Frankly, credit card companies do not make as much money off of you as these buy now, pay later creators make, and they don't encourage you to continue spending money to the same degree that these BNPL services do. And so they're really insidious and really dangerous, partly because they actually change your shopping habits, and people end up buying more stuff when the BNPL option is available. There's been some stuff in the news about how you can now buy now, pay later for a burrito. And I hope if you listen to this podcast that you know that these things are not generally a good idea. They are built not for your benefit. They are built to get you to spend more money. They tend to pull people into pretty big kinds of debt and really establish habits that are counter to your interest. So I just hope that you are aware of that. But I really wanted to point out first, just a couple of facts from this article. I'm not going to excerpt the article at all. I just want to sort of talk to you about some of the broad strokes about how these buy now, pay later companies work. And then I want to tell you a contrasting article that kind of is the solution or the antidote. And of course, also then I'm going to read you a little excerpt from my book where I am talking about some basic personal finance stuff that I hope is helpful to you. All right. So my agenda today is to basically talk about the value of educating yourself about how financing works and personal finance, because a lot of consumers are being preyed upon when they don't have a solid background in personal finance. So here are some notes I made about this really awesome article by Amy Wang. in the New York Times Magazine. So first, what's important to understand is these buy now, pay later services, they make more money off of each individual than credit card companies do. So if you thought credit card companies were the way to get yourself into debt, BNPL is actually worse. Half of all buy now, pay later users are early career people under age 33. So they advertise no hidden fees and no interest, but when you are late, when you miss a payment, that's when the spiral starts, right? And of course, one of the things about how these buy now, pay later services work is they really play on human psychology, this thing called the present bias, which is that you are inclined to feel that today's decisions are more important than tomorrow's consequences, right? Personal finance is actually kind of encouraging yourself to look at it from the opposite lens, thinking about future you and how happy future you will be with the decision you make today. That's actually how to build yourself financial security and not go into a hole. But getting that $2,000 pair of boots, which you might never feel you could afford, probably because you can't afford. I can't afford a $2,000 pair of boots, or, technically I have the money in my bank account, but it's not aligned with my priorities in life. That $2,000 has, 5 other places I want it to go if I have it to spare. But interest rates on these buy now, pay later plans are as high as 36%. Now, interest on a credit card can be like 18, 22%, which is exorbitant, which is unbelievable. I didn't realize how insane these BNPL interest rates are. They're higher than credit cards, right? And there are late fees that they charge on top of those unbelievably high interest rates. BNPL companies also make 2 to 9% of the cost of each installment payment, which they get not from you, the consumer, but they get from the retailer. Now, this is always an interesting way to think of how you're being used by a company, is actually to look at its finances. This is one of the many reasons that I love talking about and learning about money, is because it tells you how things really work. Right? There's marketing and then there's money. And money is usually the realer, truer story, right? So if you think about why is it in the interest of Prada and Chanel to pay a buy now, pay later company 2 to 9% of the cost of every purchase, to basically give away that profit, right? It's somebody buying their products anyway, right? Well, the reason is they're getting a customer who would not buy that stuff at all. And what the research has shown, the data has shown, when people use BNPL for luxury brands, which is a lot of what is happening, they buy more. They actually start buying more. In other words, it tends to trigger a bit of a cycle of, a buying frenzy. Okay. So you are being used in that way when you use these services. And it's easy to think, well, just do it this once. You do it a second time, you do it a third time, you run out of money, you hit a financial roadblock, and then it becomes kind of a thing to lean on during a hard period and makes the ultimate debt in the background grow worse and worse at interest rates that are just shocking to me. Okay, so that's just a little bit of my thoughts about the buy now, pay later phenomenon. And the other really important thing to know about it is that these companies in particular are targeting young people who do not have a solid personal finance education. So we just want you to understand that the lack of personal finance knowledge is what is causing people to get into these unbelievable amounts of debt that this article outlines. And it goes through some examples of people who kind of got caught up in that like internet influencer thing and, wanting to have and show off and be a part of buying luxury brands. So it is the very fact that these people do not have solid personal finance education that is being preyed upon by these companies. Okay. Now, I want to give you a counterpoint. There's another article that I read over the summer from CNBC where they found data that said that you can put a price tag on the value of a personal finance education. Any ideas what that would be? It's $100,000. So there is data reported by CNBC over the summer that says taking one personal finance class, one semester-long personal finance class in high school, saved those people in those classes an average of $100,000 over the course of their lifetime. Curiously, one of the primary drivers of that savings was not falling for high interest rates. Exactly what the BNPL people are preying upon. Taking a personal finance class keeps you out of that and puts $100,000 extra dollars in your pocket over your lifetime. So this is, of course, what I want for you. I want you to have this kind of empowerment. I want you to have this kind of education. A lot of us, especially in the arts and humanities, did not get as solid of a financial education as we really rightfully deserve, whether it's because we are written off by, people in a position to teach these things as hopeless, which, of course, that's silly and self-defeating. And sometimes we've grown allergies to personal finance because we've had such terrible experiences with money. And a lot of times I see people tell themselves a story. I've certainly been a part of this myself, where I've actually told myself a story that says, I made such terrible mistakes in my 20s about money. I must be awful at this. I guess I'm just bad with money. I guess I'm just broken forever. But actually, that's not how it works at all. The human learning process often comes from mistakes, right? Everybody makes terrible mistakes with money in their 20s. We hope they're not too bad. And if you take a personal finance class in high school, perhaps you won't make such terrible mistakes, right? So it's the education and the learning from those mistakes that helps you grow and change and get better at it. And I stand here as an example of someone who has gone from a place of being really terrible with money, truly, truly terrible, to being great at it, right? To being an actual paid expert. I make my living now teaching personal finance and taxes. So I just want to emphasize how valuable a personal finance education is. And I thought that would be a good reason to read you a little excerpt from my book, because guess what? I just spent the last 2 years of my life writing what I think is the absolute best tax guide you have ever read. And yes, it does include some personal finance information. So one of the ways that my book is helping people save money is teaching you how to get the most out of your deductions, how to get the most benefit from running a small business, which is what you're doing when you're freelance, right? A lot of us don't even realize that. And I'm also teaching you some of those next level up things. In fact, there's a section of my book, Taxes for Humans, called The Level Up. And it's got a couple chapters about saving like a millionaire using tax-advantaged accounts, finding hidden money, using tax planning to find money that you could be having that you don't currently. So this book is really not about hustling. It's not about earning more or hustling more. It's actually just about squeezing your dollars, your existing dollars, harder to get more. So let me just read you a very, very short chapter prepping this section of the book to give you a sense of what's in it. All right. This is from chapter 13 of Taxes for Humans, and it's called Level Up Your Wealth. There is so much to do when you're self-employed. You have to hustle to get more work, hustle to do the work, and then there's the admin of running your own business. It's hard to remove yourself from the day-to-day parts of the business and the non-optional parts, like doing taxes, to do the next level stuff. But take a moment to envision the world you would be living in by taking time to use the skills of up-leveling your money. You could build financial security for your future, do bigger and better projects, gain more visibility, and serve more people with your work. Rest and recharge. Take time off for family or illness. So often, ethical people doing world-changing work write off the idea of their own financial security. But building wealth is not just for your clients and the people you care about in your family and your community. It's for you too. And that's important. Be your own hero. Building wealth is possible for you. Wealth is not a windfall or an accident. It's the product of habit. A lot of us dismiss the idea of learning wealth building habits. This may be part self-protection. What if I can't? And part self-justification. What if I don't want to put in the effort? We might harbor a fantasy that we'll just win the lottery one day and then we'll be okay. But even a windfall like that isn't the solution you might dream of. The majority of lottery winners go bankrupt within 7 years. And I want to note that I have a little footnote here that cites that research. This is really a true thing. And you can look at the article called The Lottery Curse. Are lottery winners more likely to declare bankruptcy? So there's research showing that this is a true phenomenon. Okay, think about that. Lottery winners end up worse than if they had never won the money. Why? Because they didn't have the wealth building habits. Winning money amplified the habits they already had, habits that were often money losing. Wealth building is a set of skills and habits. If you have bad habits, more money will amplify those. If you have good habits, more money will become even more. I encourage you not to slip into the daydream of the hero on the white horse coming to your rescue. You have everything you need to get started building your wealth right here in this book. Use the tools in this section and you can be your own hero on the white horse. How taxes help you build wealth. Taxes can help you build wealth, really. Building your savings muscle is the hard part, especially in a capitalist economy where you're bombarded with messages training you to spend money to solve all problems, even when half the time connecting with a friend, reusing an item you already have, or getting a good night's sleep will do the trick. Once you can work that muscle, the rest is a learnable, wealth-building skill set that I call the power triangle. It's a magical trio that works together to 1, save like a millionaire, aka using tax-advantaged accounts. 2, find hidden money, aka tax planning. And 3, growing your wealth, aka investing. This is not technically a tax thing, but by investing your money inside tax-advantaged accounts, see number 1, you accelerate the growth of your investments by lowering the cost of them, the taxes part. Because this is primarily a tax book, this section is short and focused on number 1 and number 2, these strictly tax pieces. My goal is to introduce the concepts and whet your appetite for the real possibility of building wealth. I also want you to know that in my program, Money Bootcamp, I dig even deeper into these concepts, including number 3, how to invest. If you want more, you can find my program at sunlighttax.com/moneybootcampimpact. Each piece of the power triangle is its own wealth-building skill. When used together, you maximize every dollar to full advantage. The part I love so much about the power triangle is that it's not about working harder. It's not about earning more money. It's about getting more of the money you have without additional hustle. It's not just a path to wealth, it's a path to rest. All right, so that is just a short and sweet excerpt, the sort of intro part of the wealth building section of my book, Taxes for Humans. And if you have not ordered your copy yet, there is still a really great pre-order bonus available through about November 10th. That shuts down 2 weeks before launch day. So if you're interested in that, you can go to sunlighttax.com/bonus. So I'll repeat that, sunlighttax.com/bonus. And that will take you to a website where you can order the book at the best available discount and the workbook as well at the best available discount and get the intro chapter right away, as well as free access to my really money-saving course called IRS Proof Your Deductions. So that bonus is still available if you order the book before November 10th. So sunlighttax.com/bonus to get that. And I hope that just gives you a little bit of encouragement, knowing and really believing based on those 2 articles that, one about Klarna and Afterpay and those buy now, pay later sites, which are making money hand over fist at the expense of people who do not have a solid background in personal finance. And on the other hand, that CNBC article that showed research that people who have a personal finance education have $100,000 more wealth in their life because they avoid things like buy now, pay later. All right. And I hope, of course, this is the whole reason that I wrote my book, Taxes for Humans, because I want this for you, right? I think we as creative people, as small, passionate businesses, we often let the money part be secondary. And, money is not your vision. It's not your mission, but it is your fuel. And it is really your ability to take a rest. So it's really important. It's kind of like putting the oxygen mask on yourself. So I hope you know that I wrote this book really to be as powerful to help you as it possibly can. Will my book save you $100,000 in your lifetime? It might. I certainly am trying. And I would love that feedback after you read it. If you find yourself saving money, if you find yourself opening those tax-advantaged accounts, drop me a line. Nothing would make me happier. All right. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. It really helps. I'm so grateful. My tax guide, Taxes for Humans, is available for pre-order at sunlighttax.com/book. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links I reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.